What is going on, everybody? And there has been a debate in the gaming community that's been going on for quite a long time. And the debate is about what is the most important quality of a video game. Now, when you look at a video game, most video games are separated in three distinct categories. And those categories are gameplay, the core gameplay of the game, the controls, how well it plays, etc. The graphics of the game, how well it looks, and how well it actually performs. And then, of course, the story of the game, the plot, the characters, etc. And people look at those categories and they then determine what, in their opinion, is the most important part of that specific video game that they're looking at. For me, however, I don't see how this is even a debate. Because to me, I don't see how anyone can really sit here and say that anything other than gameplay is the most important part of a video game. Because to me, gameplay is undeniably the most important quality of a video game. Now see, I started gaming in the NES days and into the Super Nintendo days. Most games back then didn't really have plots or stories. And if they did, they were very simple. Very, very simplistic. So in order for us to play these games, the actual gameplay had to be 100% fun. You did not accept anything less other than 100% fun. Because otherwise, then there was really no reason to play the game. That is why when you look at a lot of games back in those early days, if the controls sucked, if the gameplay sucked, the game was really rendered useless. Like, completely useless. If you want tons of examples, just look up the Angry Video Game Nerd. He's reviewed a ton of those games, if you want actual references. So, yeah, in order for us to play these games, the gameplay had to be fun. So that says a lot when we played these games and we really had no reason to play these games other than they were fun to play. Now, as gaming advanced over time, we started adding in other variables to these games. We started adding in stories. We started adding in distinct characters and plots. And then, of course, as we advanced, the graphics got better in games. So we started looking at how good the graphics are in a game. And that is where a lot of people, in my opinion, drifted off into thinking that the other two categories are more important. But to me, at the end of the day, the core gameplay is the most important part of the game. Because what do we do with these video games? What do we usually do with these video games? We pick up a controller, or if we're on PC, we use a mouse and keyboard sometimes, but we use some type of device and we play them. We play the video game. So that is the main reason that video games exist, for us to play them. And in order for us to play these games and enjoy them, the gameplay has to be up to snuff. So when you look at a game and the actual gameplay is bad, it will actually hinder your experience of the game. So in reality, it doesn't really matter how good the game looks. It doesn't really matter how good the characters might be or how interested in the story you might be. If the gameplay sucks, I think it's pretty safe to say your experience is hindered and you're probably not having fun. And I think the biggest example, at least for me personally, would be Final Fantasy XIII. That is a prime example. I love the Final Fantasy games, or at least most of them. I played most of the games in the main series, and I've enjoyed most of them. Final Fantasy XIII I did not. But it did excel in one category. It excelled tremendously in graphics. Even today, the game looks amazing. Even by today's standards, because it came out last gen. But to me, the gameplay was not fun. I hated the battle system. I hated the fact that you couldn't level grind. I just basically was not having fun playing the game. Now, as far as the story goes, it wasn't the worst story I've ever heard, but it was confusing in a lot of areas because they didn't really explain much to you. But that's a whole other thing I can get into down the road if I ever decide to get into that. But the point is that despite the fact that the game looked very pretty, despite the fact that it was presented well, I thought the gameplay of the game sucked. So therefore, I was not having fun playing it, and I ended up not finishing it because I got sick of playing it. So that right there shows you that gameplay should be the thing that developers focus most on, because it is the most important part of the game. Because I can go back and play an older Final Fantasy where the graphics aren't as good and the story might not be as presented as well, might be more basic, but the gameplay is a hell of a lot more fun, and I will have more fun with the game because of the more fun gameplay. So let's look at an example of a game that lacks in those other two areas, but it makes up for in fun gameplay. Super Mario Brothers. I will explain the plot to you of 85-90% of the main Mario games. Princess Peach, or Princess Toadstool, whatever you want to call her, gets kidnapped by Bowser, or King Koopa, whatever you want to call him, whichever one you want to use, and then Mario has to save her. That's it. That is it. I know, very, very basic and simplistic, right? Yes. But why did we play the Mario games? We played them because the gameplay was fun. That is why we played them. Regardless of whether we were playing with other people, doing co-op, two-player, or regardless of whether or not we were playing by ourselves. We were having fun playing those games. That is why we can go back, or at least most of us, to this day and still have fun playing those games because the gameplay is that fun. So, yeah, to me, that just shows you how important gameplay is over graphics, over story. I mean, honestly, I'm sorry. I just don't see how anyone can really sit here and say that those other two categories, or really anything else about a video game, is more important than the core fundamental gameplay. Because that is the reason we play these games in the first place. To have fun and play them. And you need to have good controls and just overall fun gameplay. And if your game doesn't have that, it's really going to hinder your experience, regardless of how good the other areas might be. So, alright, that's about it. Please let me know your thoughts on this. I'd be interested to know how you guys might think about this. So, alright, until next time, have a good one.